Ashley Comedy presents
Funny Girl's Guide.
Your weekly podcast about living your life the way that you want to with a laugh.
That's right. And I'm one of your hosts, Ashley Ella Park, joined with the ever so lovely
Mandy Heintzelman Smith. And Ashley, I'm not wearing pants.
You're what?
I'm not wearing pants.
You're what?
No pants, just my German Shepherd Snuggie.
And sunglasses.
And
I
sunglasses.
love this for you, actually. This is delightful.
I feel like, I'm embracing my hot mess side.
I love it. We're having a fucking morning. It's okay to have a fucking morning, but we're having a morning. And we just decided, let's just make like Elizabeth Taylor and just, wear sunglasses and just lounge a little.
Yeah, exactly.
I love a good lounge.
I was listening to Sex with Emily. Have you listened to that podcast?
No, I have not yet.
It's actually super important. It's not just about sex. It's about like relationships, sort of like personal growth. And I want to steal something from her podcast for our podcast, but she sets an intention at the top, both for herself and for her listeners. And so today, since we have Mama Dr. Jones, I know so many of you follow her. So many of my friends follow her, not only on her YouTube, where she has almost a million subscribers, but on her Instagram. And I felt like my intention could be to give yourself permission to like ask what you need when you go to the doctor. Like you're there for yourself, not for them, not to impress them. They are not embarrassed of your question. And like, even as like a grown woman, I get nervous to like ask what I really want to ask. And that's why I think she's so popular. She's like, Q&A, ask me anything.
Yeah, she is so wonderful to talk to in the interview. I had such a lovely time. And I love that you said this because I went in for a physical and I haven't established a primary care doctor because I just go to my OB-GYN every year. I'm pretty healthy, blah, blah, blah. But I was like, it's time. And she's asking me all these questions and the nurse practitioner was like going through everything and they're like, okay, so like how many like glasses of wine do you drink? And I found myself making like mental gymnastics with her of like, well, that's a convoluted story because of this. And I didn't drink because of like, I was on this medication. Now I'm off the medication. Here we're going to the blah, blah. And I have really like hard days. And sometimes I drink like 4 glasses of wine and then I'm like, blah, blah. And I'm going through literally a novel of an answer. And she goes, I'm not judging at all. I just, if your like tests come back, we can pinpoint, oh, it's this. And like, it was as simple as that. Like, it was as simple as like, you can drink a bottle of wine if you're having a bad day. It's fine. I just need to know.
Yeah. Like it's your life, and I see so many people. What is it? Like, you feel like you need to like impress your doctor? Like, no, they're probably doing the same fucking thing because we're living through a pandemic.
Yeah, that was like such a beautiful realization of like why am I stressing out over this? And she's like, I don't care. Like it's fine.
Yeah, it's just I'm here for your health and you're here for your health. This is all about you.
Yeah. And she's like, we're a team. It's fine. And like they were so nice. And the moral of the story, I love them. And they're like hot. They're like everyone's hot at the office, which I'm like, I have hot doctors. Yes.
Yeah. Like my hot dentist. I love when she comes in her like Manolos. And I'm like, yes, like you can be everything. Be all that you are. Like bring it in hot with your floss.
A hot health team in general. We need like an entire health fleet for us.
Wait. I have a confession for you. Okay, so I have my appointment to get my first COVID vaccine in Wimberley, which is kind of far, you guys, from Austin. It's like I'm excited for the drive. Like, I'm excited for it, but now I'm getting all these emails from like Austin Public Health. I've signed up for like 10 different COVID shots. I feel like I'm ghosting. I'm like hot girling my other like COVID vaccine opportunities. Like they're coming in so hot, and I'm like, sorry, taken.
You've got your golden ticket, baby. Let's go.
Let's go.
Oh my God. I speaking of COVID, I was at IKEA last night and I went with Sarah.
The divorce maze?
I went to the Swedish divorce maze. And I did find horrifying things. I'll have to post this on our stories. I found like nightmarish things in there. The Swedes are very minimalist, but also frightening at the same time. So what a bold statement to make about an entire country. So Sarah accidentally paid for 2 avocado slicers. And so she had to go to the return section. And we talked to this woman and it was at the end of the day. And she was going on and on about how much she hates masks. And I was like I was having a fucking meltdown. I was like, we need to get out of here. We need to get out of here. We need to get out of here. And Sarah was just like, okay, yeah, like if you could refund me. And then she would not refund us. She just kept talking to us. And I was like, I want to get the fuck out of here.
Was she wearing a mask while complaining about wearing?
Yes. And
What's her nose hanging out?
it kept slipping down. Her nose was comically large. No, her nose. Her mask was comically large. I'm so sorry, lady. Your nose was fine. Her mask was comically large and it kept like falling down. And I was like, this is chaos.
This is chaos. Absolute chaos.
We have got an exciting episode today. Mama Dr. Jones.
So lucky to have her on our podcast, you guys. Like, she answers all the tough questions that anyone from the internet asks on, on her YouTube or on her Instagram. And so we got to pick her brain about all of the things that we shared, we overshared, she shared, and you can follow her at Mama Dr. Jones. Maybe you already do. So super exciting for us. So let's get to it.
Well, welcome everyone. We have an exciting guest today. We have Mama Dr. Jones with us.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
We have a lot of questions.
You. So I didn't realize you were just telling us that you were supposed to be traveling for a year, and now here you are in Austin and bouncing around at Airbnbs. Can you just tell everyone, like, what's your situation right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a comedic story, but we were supposed to be traveling internationally. I was supposed to be working internationally doing what we call locums, which is just kind of hopping around between hospitals in different countries. And I quit my job effective in May of 2020, and we sold our house and gave away everything we owned. And we were supposed to be traveling. We had one-way tickets to Hawaii and then to Japan, and then COVID happened. So we've been living in Airbnbs, including 3 months in a one-bedroom cabin, and it's been crazy, but it is what it is. So now I'm working in Austin, and we love it here. I think we've always kind of wanted to come to Austin, and I think we'll end up kind of settling down here eventually, but we do hope that we can travel for a little bit first.
Yeah.
So where's the first place you're traveling if you had to go anywhere right after COVID's done?
Yeah, right. I actually have a locum set up in Hawaii, which is exactly 1 year from when we were supposed to be there in June. And so that's kind of coming full circle. And then I've interviewed for a job in New Zealand. So we'll see.
Oh my God, a Lord of the Rings journey.
Oh, yes.
So then will your kids go to international school, or what are you going to do for school?
Yeah, right now they're homeschooled, and that was kind of the plan for this year. My husband is he's a web developer, and he's really missing like being in web development, because right now he's doing all the homeschooling and stuff while I'm working. Mm-hmm. And so I think he's hoping that once we get somewhere for more than a couple of months at a time, that they'll settle down into some kind of school.
Mm-hmm. So we found you on Instagram because so many of my friends follow you, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love how you are so open and so vulnerable, and you will say how you feel. And I think being a person who stands up for trans rights and who says what the president isn't doing is inappropriate, and if I lose followers, I lose followers. Like, I was like, yes, I have to follow this woman.
It has gotten me, sometimes a lot of hateful messages, but I feel like if you're in a position to have a platform, that it's important to speak up about things like that. And so I don't have a problem saying what's on my mind, which for some things is great and other things is not.
Sorry, but did the YouTube channel, when it started taking off with YouTube and TikTok and Instagram, were you like, oh, this is going, the train is going, we got to follow it?
Yeah, that was wild. I started the YouTube channel in January of 2019 when I was on maternity leave with my son. And it was really just a place to like put longer form conversations, because at the time, Instagram kind of just fed your content out for about 24 hours. And then it either actually went away, like in stories and live. And at the time, you couldn't upload long videos to IGTV, or it just got disappeared into the algorithm after a couple of days. And I wanted it somewhere searchable. So I just started putting stuff on YouTube, and I'm kind of the type of person that if I'm going to do something, I want to do it well. So I spent a lot of time listening to podcasts about how to start a YouTube channel, but I never expected it to like do what it did. So in July of 2019, I had a video that just kind of went, I don't know if it was viral, but it suddenly just got 1 million views, and I got a bunch of subscribers from it. And at that point I was like, okay, we need to ride this wave. People need this information. They want this information. And for some reason they like the way I share this information, and it's been great. I love it there. It's now my favorite social media platform by far.
I love it.
Yeah, do you like how they're doing like the shorter, so you prefer a longer format, but do you like the little shorts that you can do on YouTube now?
Yeah, shorts is new, and I haven't published any, but we've created some that we're working on getting out, and I think it's going to be good. I hope that it's a good way to really just answer quick questions like how do you take a pregnancy test, or things that how do you do a pelvic exam, things that people want a quick answer to. They don't want to watch a 20-minute video, because I do a lot of Q&As and it's hard to make those searchable if I answer 6 or 7 questions in the video. So I'm hoping we can split that up into like individual questions. So we'll see. We're playing around with it.
I saw you had a video about the HPV vaccine, and it was interesting because I just had my physical and I was talking to my doctor, and she said women who are older can now get the HPV vaccine, or they can at least cater to the idea. It used to only be available, I think, up to women in their early 20s. What are the pros and cons of the HP vaccine if we were, let's say, an older woman in her 30s open to it?
Yeah, the pros are that it is a cancer prevention vaccination. So basically the way it works is it decreases your chances of getting HPV, and there are hundreds of types of HPV, but there are particular types that are more commonly the cancer causing types. And although cervical cancer is largely preventable even without the vaccine, as long as you are getting regular pap smears, not always, but most of the time, having the vaccine greatly lowers that risk in general. And so for people we used to recommend it up to age 26, because these were the people who were most at risk of being exposed, either having new partners or multiple partners, et cetera. But that doesn't mean that there aren't people over the age of 26 who haven't been exposed and will eventually be exposed. And so what we found is, through more research, that it could still be cost effective. And that's always what you're weighing. It's like the risk and benefit and the cost effectiveness. And that we found that up to age 45, it probably is still cost effective. And initially that was about in, I don't know, early 2019 that got approval from the FDA. And we had a lot of trouble getting insurances to cover it, but I think that's better now. So the pros is that it could prevent you from having exposure to a virus that could cause abnormal pap smears and complications like cancer if it went on long enough. And the cons are that it's very expensive without insurance coverage, so you should make sure your insurance covers it. But other than that, it's a very safe vaccine. Honestly, one of the safest vaccines that we have. We have extensive data on this vaccine, and if people want more information, I have a 3-part series on YouTube about it. But it's a very good vaccine. I'm a big proponent.
Okay, so older ladies, I'm using that in quotations, get out there.
Yeah, especially with people who have new partners, who have multiple partners, because, we sometimes think, oh, just the young people are having sex with a bunch of different people, or even 1 or 2 different people or new people. But that's not the case, right? I mean, a lot of people over the age of 26 have new partners or multiple partners, and you don't know what will happen later in your life. And it's worth the prevention.
Definitely. And I have a lot of friends who are staying single longer, like they're in their 30s and they are still single. So like, this is something, if they thought they couldn't get it earlier, now they can think about it.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Speaking of people in their 30s, so we were talking about, I feel like a lot of my friends are thinking about doing like egg retrieval. I saw that, did you guys see the last episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians? No, just me. I just caught a little bit of it. And Chloe was going through like hormone treatments to like retrieve her eggs. And, so I just feel like I'm hearing about it a lot. But I feel like a lot of people are on the fence about it because it's so expensive. Like, what do you tell someone who's like in her mid-30s and she's like not sure if she wants to have kids? Like, what's your recommendation?
Yeah, so first off, I'm definitely not the expert in this field. I appreciate my reproductive endocrinology and infertility colleagues who do just this, not just egg retrieval, but just fertility things. But I would tell someone, we need to kind of discuss like, what's your age? What's your plan? Do you know if you have a plan? And then if you're even thinking about it, I think it's worth talking to a reproductive endocrinologist so they can give you like the real risks and benefits and success rates and all of that stuff. And for people listening to this, Dr. Natalie Crawford is a good friend of mine. She's also Austin-based. She has a YouTube channel and she talks about all things infertility, egg retrieval, egg freezing, all kinds of things. So I think that's a great place to get information as well.
Love it. I've been on TikTok and there's been a lot of panty talk on there where like people have lots of opinions on what to do, what to wear, what to do with your panties. And I have to say, I saw one that I was like, I'm going to ask Dr. Mama Jones about this. It said, we have to retire our panties after 6 months because of bacteria. And I don't know if that's true, but the way that my drawer works is once you've reached a certain age, you become period panties. So I don't know what is the norm with this.
Yeah, I don't know how these things go viral on TikTok, but just this absolute nonsense. But that is just absolutely not true. If you're washing your underwear in, especially in hot water with soap, like it's fine. Don't throw them away after 6 to 9 months. I mean, if that's a rule we live by, I'm gonna have to clean out my entire drawer because I am far above that expiration date. But it's nonsense. You don't have to do that.
Oh, thank God. Okay, so my promoted panties are safe now. We can keep them in there. That's good.
Also, how expensive? Like, underwear is not cheap.
Right.
I was thinking that too. I'm like, are these Rockefellers? How are you affording all these panties every 6 months? What's going on here?
Well, now I find all my cute panties on Amazon. Now I used to only get hanky pankies because they're so cute, but I was like, they fall apart in the washing machine. So now Amazon has some really cute ones now.
I didn't know that. I will have to check that out.
The more you know. Which, okay, that does remind me. I saw another TikTok that was saying thongs, not good in the realm of underwear. Is this true because of bacteria transference, or is this just another false thing that's out there in the world?
No, I don't think that's true either. So here's the thing with underwear. If you have a problem with irritation or frequent infections, things like this, then just plain cotton underwear is probably the best way to go. But if you like thongs or you like silk or satin or lace or whatever, and it doesn't bother you and you're not having any problems, then who cares? It's fine. So you do you, unless you're having problems, in which case maybe switching to a cotton, just regular underwear for a little while is the best way to go. And then any thong that has kind of that cotton lining, which I would assume most do.
Yeah.
is because otherwise, like, how is it functioning? It's gonna be fine. I don't think there's any problem with that.
Oh, thank God. So the moral of the story is if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
There we go.
Yeah, after you saw that TikTok, Ashley, I was like, every time I put on a thong, I think about it. So I'm glad to know. And I love looking at your stories, Danielle, when you're like, when you just like debunk something, whether it's like about like hormones or like if somebody's trying to swab your mouth, ask them what they're going to do with the test results. If you get a high or you get a low, this is not true. Like, I love that. Someone needs to be doing that,
You would be shocked how many people end up in my office saying, this person, this naturopath, or not always natural. I don't want to demonize just them, but like this person who is not a medical doctor said, you need to order this whole list of labs for me. And I think like, okay, if this person can't order your labs and can't interpret your labs, why are you letting them tell you what labs you need? Like, why don't you come to me, tell me what's going on, and then we'll decide what labs you need.
Red flag.
Yes, exactly.
I have a question on tampons because I love going to like my little Target and I check them out and I'm like, okay, there's so many like variety of tampons now. And like when we were growing up, Mandy, it was always like Tampax Pearl. That's what you got. Like it was the
that was a good
Tampax
one.
Pearl.
Yeah.
But is it better to go for like things that aren't scented, non-chlorinated, non-bleached? There's
But
so
those
much
hurt.
stuff.
Those aren't comfortable. Like when you buy them, they're like clunky and you can feel it.
Yeah. So I definitely always recommend unscented. I think no scented products belong in the vicinity of your vulva or vagina ever. This is bad. If you're using a scented product and it's not bothering you, it's not going to hurt you. But if you aren't using scented products, don't start because they can cause irritation. They can cause contact dermatitis. They're just in general not good for sensitive skin. Just like the skin on your face, you're not supposed to put, your body lotion all over your face because scented products are bad for sensitive skin. So other than that, I don't have strong feelings about any tampons. You can use whatever you like. So there's this big idea, and it's on TikTok a lot, about organic tampons are the only ones that you should use because the other ones have, toxins in them that just get absorbed right from your vagina to your brain. And this is crazy, right? So that's not how it works. There aren't toxins that are going to hurt you in tampons, but if you like organic tampons better. So me personally, I think that I get less yeast infections after my period when I use organic tampons. Is that
Mhm.
placebo, self-fulfilling prophecy, or actuality? I have no idea, but I personally prefer them because of that. I don't think for you or whoever else that you should switch to organic if you're not having a problem with the ones that you use.
So for someone that's just starting out, like my 10-year-old daughter is starting to like go through some changes. Like I don't know, of course, like when she's gonna get her period. I got mine kind of late, so I'm like surprised that she's like, getting little like breast buds and like. But for somebody that's just starting out, like I want her to use whatever she's comfortable with. But like, of course, my brain is like organic and whatever. But is it really more just about like preference or like?
Yeah, I mean, it's preference, but I don't think, the thing with organic tampons, and the reason I don't like to push them as like these are better is because we don't really have any science that says that, and they tend to be more expensive. So that's kind of limiting for some people. I don't think there's anything wrong with if you want to start her out on, organic products, that's fine. I'm not like, I think all these buzzwords, natural, organic, these kind of things are used for marketing, and we don't really even know, what's the actual difference. Is there a scientific difference? And probably the answer is no. So whatever you and her feel comfortable with is probably fine. Just start out with some, the smallest ones. They make some that are specific for, younger teens, and yeah, that's probably all you need.
I like your practical approach to life and medicine.
Nobody panic.
Nobody.
Yeah, exactly.
Panic.
I got in a little hot water for saying basically that. Nobody panic at the early parts of the pandemic, though, because, you want people to be aware of what's going on. But at the same time, like mass panic is never the right answer.
Never good.
Yeah, but for some reason, Twitter really needed to panic. And I was, like, no, let's not panic. Let's be practical.
Well, what do you mean? Like, what hot water did you get in?
Not hot water. I mean, Twitter is Twitter. They're mad at everything. Twitter is primed for outrage.
Do you do Twitter too?
Yeah, Twitter was my first platform, actually.
What? We can't wrap our minds around Twitter. Ashley and I, we say our Twitter's in the twatter because we're like, we can't handle one more platform.
It's dead in the twatter.
Yeah, so I was not on Twitter for a long time, but it was the first platform that I ever like really started gaining a following on, and that was in medical school. And I got some really cool opportunities from that. But then I stopped doing it for a long time. But that's really where journalists and people go to find doctors to put in their stories. And so I kind of got more active on Twitter because I need to fulfill my narcissistic need to be in articles.
Well, and speaking of articles, you were in People recently. So you were in a People article. Tell us about that.
Yeah, last year was crazy. I mean, last year when it was like 6 months, 8 months after the YouTube channel took off, and things just got crazy. So we got contacted by People Health to be on the cover of their People Health magazine, which is really, it's not like sold in Walgreens and stuff, so it wasn't that big of a deal, but it was still pretty cool. They like send it to doctors' offices and stuff. So all my colleagues were like texting me like, you're on our magazine in the waiting room. And I was like, yes, I am. As a matter of fact, my dad just texted me the other day and he's like, look what I found in my doctor's office. And I was like, did you steal it? And he's like, I asked first, but I did take it with me.
Like, this is my daughter. I have to take this.
Yes. And so they came to our house, and this was like right when the pandemic was like, it was like the week before lockdown, and they did a photo shoot, and it was so much fun. And they did it like in my son's room with his mural that after we moved, I'm so happy to have those pictures, in his room and stuff. But they didn't release it for a long time because of the pandemic. So that was really cool. And then my picture was in the New York Times doing like a TikTok doctor article, and that was really cool. It was a wild year. I mean, I never expected that getting online to share health information. Clearly, I'm very passionate about pregnancy and gynecology and trans rights and, fighting racism in medicine and things like this. But I never expected that to turn into something that was beneficial to me as well. And it's been really fun, but I'm just glad that it gets the information out where it needs to be.
Mm-hmm. I love that you mentioned that too, because I read this article that Serena Williams wrote when she was pregnant. She had an issue with her pregnancy, was trying to raise concern over it. She wasn't taken seriously. And I also saw another video where a woman said, police are to Black men as doctors can be to women, to Black women. And that just like really hit me hard of like, oh my gosh. So what changes have you seen in the medical community? Where is there more training or just people talking about like, we need to take this more seriously, racism in the medical field of giving proper care to people of color who have historically been not taken seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think important in that discussion is that it's not just doctors. Of course, we
Mhm.
are oftentimes not listening to our patients enough, especially our patients of color, but the entire medical community
Mhm.
needs to be listening to this conversation, because doctors are not often the first ones there or the ones at the bedside the most often. There are other
Yeah.
people, respiratory therapists, nurses, all of these people who also need to hear this conversation and be included in it. And that's not, I'm not saying that to take, the blame off of doctors, because we certainly are the culprits so often of not listening, because we like to hear ourselves talk and we like to be in charge. And so I think that talking about this in spaces like online is helping with, I hope, just getting the message out there that people are not being listened to, and that this is a bigger problem in our patients of color. And then even adding on top of that, women in general are less listened to. So when you
Mhm.
have a woman of color and she is not being listened to, this is a massive problem. And Serena Williams did a great job of bringing, that to the table, because so often what people think is, well, it's lower socioeconomic, or maybe these people are less educated. And that's crazy, right? Because we can see from the data, we have literature on this, that you can take out socioeconomic status, you can take out education, you can take out just age matched, health matched, and you still have worse outcomes in our Black population. And that means that it's not something inherent to them, which is what so often has been taught, even in medicine. So this is an external factor. It is systemic racism, which has come from, historical racism that's kind of built a system that silences these people. And then it is individual racism, which, it may not even be intentional. And so I think that's the point, is that being less able to listen to your patients because they are a person of color does not mean you are a bad person, unless you don't recognize that bias and start to make sure that you're not actually acting on it. And I think that's important, because otherwise people aren't listening.
I love that. And like just talking about it helps so much too in the medical community of like, okay, we got to change this.
Exactly.
I do have a question about Summer's Eve specifically. Should we be buying literally like wash intended for your nether regions only, or is it's like body wash?
Yeah, no, that is a marketing ploy as well. And it's nonsense. So should you be using just like a scented Bath and Body Works soap on your vulva? Probably not. Unscented gentle soap or just water is probably fine. But unscented Dove, Cetaphil, things like this are just fine. You don't have to pay extra to get like a special wash for down there. And then this kind of has the same thing as the organic tampon. If you're using those and they aren't causing you problems, it's probably okay. But I have seen pretty significant problems, like increases in infections and changes in the vaginal microbiome, which can be related to these products, as well as contact dermatitis and just general irritation. So
Oh my, I've also seen like more, I saw a deodorant. It's a deodorant that is specifically branded
Lumi,
for
yeah.
your lady area, or like even like your thighs, and that was kind of mind-boggling to me. So is that another marketing ploy? I mean, my flags went off, but I think I
Yeah,
know the answer to
I
this.
just yesterday filmed a whole YouTube video about that product. So coming soon on the YouTube channel. But yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Most of us have never used crotch deodorant in our whole life, and we're just fine. So I think it is probably not something we need. And in the video, I talk about, like, the person who invented it is an OBGYN. And she says something like, I just noticed that people were coming in for bad smells, and then they were getting misdiagnosed with BV and given antibiotics they didn't need. So I created this product. And in my head, I'm thinking, like, if you think overdiagnosis of BV is a problem and overuse of antibiotics is a problem, which, yeah, it probably is, maybe we should like fix that instead of creating a product to sell so that the doctors stop mistreating people. Like, this doesn't make any sense. So I don't like it. I would never buy it. It probably won't kill you, but I would never support it.
Good to note.
What do you think women are like most like nervous to ask you about when they come in for like their annual treatment?
Oh.
There are so many things, but I think, people get weird about asking questions like about anal sex, about any kind of like practice that maybe isn't considered vanilla or mainstream.
Mhm.
And, you know, some doctors probably aren't comfortable talking about that, but that's kind of my job on the internet. So people can ask me anything.
Mhm.
But there are some people who are just, they don't want to ask anything. They just want to come in and get their appointment taken care of and leave, even if they have things that they would like to ask. People get nervous asking about, you know, sexual trauma and abuse and questions about consent and things like that. And that's why we're here. And in my older population, not older, but, you know, people who've had kids and probably are done with childbearing, or really anyone, they get nervous about asking about things like urinary incontinence. And your gynecologist is definitely the right person to bring that up with as well.
Yeah.
I got nervous about I had to get a mammogram because I was still producing milk like 2 years after breastfeeding. And I was like so proud of it. I was like, I could still make milk forever. And my OB/GYN was like, I think we need to go get that checked out. And so I had to go get a mammogram like early. And it was like not as bad as what I thought.
I was going to say, now tell everybody how it wasn't terrible.
It wasn't. I have a sweet neighbor who came with me because she was like, everyone should have a friend come with on their first mammogram. So she came with me and it really was fine. Like it was just fine. It was not that painful. Not painful.
We do
Yeah,
like to say
I
it's
love
Mandy's superpower, though, that she can feed the population, you know?
Yeah.
And what did they end up telling you?
That there was nothing
Nothing?
wrong. It was just, yeah, that it was totally fine. And I got the what's it called? The blood test. What is it? The BRCA.
Acting.
Yeah. And that was negative too. So I felt a lot better. Actually, it was like, it made me feel so much better after. So
Yeah, it's interesting. And I actually had, I'm not going to like out her because she's not really online. She probably doesn't want to talk about it, but I had a colleague who had kind of similar thing. And I was like stumped. I was like, I don't know. Like you know, we've both been through the same training and neither one of us know like, what should we do next? And we ended up doing that. And obviously there's like first steps where you go to make sure nothing's terribly wrong. But after that, I was like, I just don't know what to tell you now. And so she got onto birth control and it went away, but it's, I don't know. It's interesting because I haven't had people tell me that many times in the past. And now talking to you, you're the second person with her that just in the recent past has said that. So I need to look up some new articles and see if anything new's come out.
I haven't tested to see for a while, but I did start birth control for the first time in a long time. And I'm actually doing it like not getting a period, like doing the one all the way through, which I love. Like I don't even know what a tampon is anymore, to be honest. Oh, that's what you do too?
Yes. And when I am old, someone's going to have to pry my birth control pills out of my cold old hands because I love them.
You can be in it till you're 49, right? If someone said that there's something at that age you have to get off, or
there's not really a distinct cutoff, but the average age of menopause is 51. So we do like to try to decrease the dose and stop it somewhere around that age. The problem is that if you're on it leading up to menopause, when you go off of it, you're probably going to have kind of hot flash symptoms and stuff. Some people don't. But there are things we can do about that as well, including low dose hormone replacement. But you want to at least take people off of it around that age and see what their cycles are doing, because most people are going to be starting to go through menopause around that time.
Maybe you can invent something before we get into menopause, something for.
There's lots of options for hot flashes. So if you have any people listening who are going through menopause, that's something else people are afraid to bring up with their doctor. And we have tons and tons of options. So please bring it up sooner rather than later, because it's easier to treat the closer you are to menopause than the further you get away, it gets harder.
And if you're in Texas, you don't want those hot flashes. That's mega hot flashes.
Yeah, exactly.
Searing hot.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, thank you so much for coming on Funny Girls Guide. And can you let everyone know, where should we follow you? All the places.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I am Mama Dr. Jones on every platform, probably too many platforms, but you can find me there under those names.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Love. We're having our virtual cigarette post-interview virtual cigarette.
Yeah, but not that your doctor would judge you. They just want to know.
They just want to know.
How many virtual cigarettes are you smoking a day? Not because you're in trouble, just because they want to know how they can best help you with your health. You know?
So true. And
okay.
Yeah. I feel like a maniac because I came in with about 20 questions from Mama Dr. Jones. I was like, and what about this? And what about this? And what about this?
I was so glad you asked because I feel like that TikTok that was going around about changing your underwear. I mean, it's these are people that have no experience and where are they getting this knowledge from? They're just making it up or reading something random. And I think that's
and then
important.
It spreads.
Spreads,
And it's like,
yeah.
come on. And it's like, I'm not going to throw away all my fucking underwear. Like I said, those period panties have been living in there since the beginning of time. Okay. They're staying there in that cave.
Yeah, exactly.
Forever.
So Ashley, I told you this already, but like now we talk about the universe a lot and how you have to like when you want something and you have to let it go. So a friend of mine had this like really cute thing that I wanted to tell you guys about because I hadn't thought about it this way. I had an audition and I was telling her about it and I was like, you can't like want it too much. This is like me trying to process like, how do you ask the universe for what you want, but don't hold on too tightly. And she was like, you need to say this or better. And I thought that was so beautiful. So you're like, I like this, this or better.
I love that. And I feel like that is a beautiful note to end on this episode. So whatever's happening in your life, shoot for this or better.
Yeah. Go have a beautiful day, Mashers. And go ahead and follow us. Follow Mama Dr. Jones. We're at Mashley Comedy on Instagram. I'm at Polite Sponge.
And I'm at that Ashley Park.
Yeah, and go rate us on Apple Podcasts. If you enjoyed this podcast, chances are your friends would too, and that's how we've been growing. So if you enjoyed this, send it to your mom, send it to your friend, send it to whoever you think might enjoy it. It would mean a lot to us.
See you next week.